Hi guys, it's me, Arden Lee. I'm coming to you live from my balcony today because it is a beautiful day outside and I'm really happy to be out here enjoying the nice weather. As you guys are filtering in, throw me some emojis, say hi, let me know that you're all getting this. All right, we have some people logging on now, very cool. Hi everybody. So I want to talk today about the topic of fake authenticity, fake vulnerability. Lately, it has been kind of trendy to to appear like you're, it's sort of a backlash to the trend of like the fake highlight reel, the marry you. Someone said, marry me. I haven't met you yet. So there's a little incongruence there. There was I think this is a backlash to the trend where people are seeing, everyone's talking about on social media, you only see the good parts of people's lives. Don't compare your cutting room floor to somebody else's highlight reel, for example. So there's kind of a backlash against that. There was that girl on social media, oh gosh, I should have looked it up before I started this, stuff just comes to me and then I'm like, I don't have any links for it. But there was that girl who had an Instagram profile with a lot of followers, and she went back and she kind of had this I don't want to say it was a meltdown because it was kind of a positive meltdown, where she went back and she edited all the captions of her Instagram photos to be like, you don't understand how long it took us to catch this beautiful photo. We had to wait for the golden hour. It looks like, oh, I'm just sitting here on the side of this beautiful mountain, but actually we planned this out, and this is all, it's all very curated on purpose. So please don't compare your own life to what you see on my Instagram. And that in itself went viral and probably got her a lot more attention than even her original Instagram profile did. So as more and more people are leaning toward the backlash against that fake, perfect social media thing, there are more and more people online who are revealing more and more about themselves. And that's absolutely a positive thing. As you guys know, you've watched me, I've done my own inner work very publicly for the last 2 years. And that's been terrific. It's been a really rewarding process. And it's, for me, it was not about how I was appearing. It was actually about a need to, it was a need within me to express myself and to be witnessed, because I found that actually helped me integrate a lot faster. So if I would have a realization about something, if I wrote about it, that in itself would help me process it because I was putting into words and making it real. But if I wrote about it and then I posted it where other people could also read the same thing, that made it feel even more real because then I was also being witnessed. So the more people who are doing that, and I've said this before, those of you who are doing your inner work publicly are absolutely leading the way, because you're showing other people that it's possible. You're showing your results. You're, you are what they call in the spiritual community a way shower. You are putting it all out there as it is and detailing your process and showing other people what is possible. And that's incredible. That's amazing. And I believe that many more people should be doing that work because it's absolutely aiding the evolution of the consciousness of the whole planet. We're at a point in time where we are more connected than we have ever been before due to the internet and social media and the ways that we can reach people literally anywhere. So you don't know what video you might make or what post you might make that someone else out there might read, and you might save a life. It's quite possible in this day and age. So yes, people are raining emojis on me. It is possible. Your inner work done publicly can save someone else's life. This is absolutely true. So I don't want to downplay any of that importance, and I'm not. But what I'm noticing as a sort of side effect of this is that as more and more people are gaining followings and a certain sense of authority from all of this work that they're doing. I've noticed other people online who are jumping on that trend without doing the work. So what does that look like? So that looks like a lot of love and light language. It looks like a lot of keywords, a lot of buzzwords about authenticity and vulnerability and showing the real deal or whatever it is, but they're not actually showing any of that. They're not actually doing the work. They're just kind of talking about it as though they are, and they're using the same buzzwords that they see other people using. But we're not learning anything about them. Just because you throw vulnerability, oh great, the guy who wants to marry me is apparently messaging me now. Guys, just like, y'all, work on your approaches, please. So they're just using the buzzwords that they've seen other people use, or they're using, it's like, someone wrote a pretty good article about this recently. If we're following someone, we're developing a relationship to that person, at least energetically, the work that they're sharing online, or we're following them, and there's like a certain progression of intimacy that happens there, because they're revealing things to you that are happening to them in that moment, and you're getting to witness their journey and be a part of that organically. We can tell when these things are emotionally manipulative and manufactured, because as this article said that I was reading the other day, that I really wish I remembered who the author was, but what she was saying is, the difference between following someone's journey organically versus, say, seeing a contestant on The Voice or American Idol or Whoever's Got Talent, and they show you like a minute and a half of them beforehand, and they tell you about like how they survived cancer, or like their mom died and that really inspired them to sing, and everyone watching knows, like, you're just trying to get me invested in this person by telling me their sob story before they go on stage. But if all you're gonna do is like gong them in the next 3 minutes, I'm not interested in getting invested. I'm not invested in this person. And even if you don't gong them and they go on to the next level, it's not the same thing as the investment that I'm going to have in this person when I've watched their journey over the course of several episodes. It just feels manipulative. We don't care about you yet, so therefore you're telling us a sob story we know that you're trying to get us to care about you, so I think the idea of sharing things as they're happening to you in real time is really important, because if you've had the chance to go through and process everything that you've been through. I mean, it's important to process, it's important to have mindfulness. It's important that when you're not in your, triggered state, or you're not in your, I still need to, whatever, that you're just going online and kind of blurting whatever comes out. But when you're doing that processing, if you can get to the heart of the matter and you can be like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with now. This is what I'm getting out of it. This is what I'm learning. And here you have it. That seems to me to be a really good formula for making that work. That way, you're not bringing up something that maybe you were sad about 5 years ago that we know you're not sad about anymore, and trying to get us to be sad about it too is just kind of like, we know that there's no need for that. We know that, yeah, we're interested in what you did to move on, or whatever. We're interested in hearing where you're at now and how you got there, but you want to watch for that kind of emotional manipulation, basically. And the problem with this, the real root problem here with this trend of fake authenticity, of people doing this for the wrong reasons, because now instead of a highlight reel, we have this like vulnerability reel, but it's still, in so many instances, it's still just as manufactured. We're just manufacturing something else. It's just like the trend has changed. That's it. Instead of, being on social media in our fabulous outfits with our glasses of champagne and living the high life, all of a sudden we're meditating, or we're, this is the real deal. This is the real me. I'm going to post a no makeup selfie. You know, Christina Aguilera was just I mean, she looks beautiful. She was photographed this like no makeup thing the other day. It's just like, this is obviously something that is very much at the forefront of the mainstream. And it, like anything else, it's possible to just copy it. Here's the problem with that. The problem with that is that if you posture like you're doing your own inner work, but you're not actually doing your own inner work, that is going to come through, because we're going to see the lack of congruence. And sometimes what ends up happening to these people is that they've been putting out this image of vulnerability or authenticity, and all of a sudden then something happens to them where they get triggered. I don't even want to say triggered, because that's such a loaded word. But like, let's say something happens where they have not done the work on themselves. And so something pops up and just surprises them that had they really been doing their inner examination, they would have seen coming. Let's put it that way. You know, I keep thinking back to this past eclipse season. It was a while ago, but like back in August. You guys remember August of 2017? It was like, we all sensed going into this, just because of the astrological currents, because of things going on in socio-cultural climates, because of just the energy in the air. We all knew, at least those of us who were paying attention, that a big shift was coming forward. And as you'll notice, you know, the huge kind of earthquake that happened in Hollywood with the Me Too movement, you know, that started with Harvey Weinstein and then kind of just mushroom clouded from there. That kind of came very quickly after. And it was like, if you've been doing the work, if you've been examining yourself and making the changes that are necessary to make going forward, then that eclipse season was like great to you. And you're probably great right now. In fact, like you've been doing all of that stuff, so you see everything coming and you're prepared for it. And you're like, oh yeah, I already got over that, you know? For me, it was healing my sexual trauma and looking at the places that I was complicit in enabling patriarchy. And I called that out about myself before the Me Too movement happened, you know, and I started to make different changes. So when everything went down, I was just like, I've been here, done this already. Like I'm good. Like this is stuff that I've already been working on. So not everybody did that. And there were people in Hollywood, let's say, I don't want to get too personal. There were people who were in Hollywood who were posturing a certain front for a brand. And it turned out that under that brand, actually, it was rotten, it was untruthful, and there was this core of hypocrisy. And some people were exposed by that. And so this lack of congruence that's coming up now, when people want to pretend that they're woke, or they want to pretend that they're on point, or they want to pretend that they're going with the current because they see everyone else do it. Well, I appreciate that you're staying with the current and that you're seeing that all of this is happening, but unfortunately, unless you're actually doing the work within yourself, it's not going to stick. And eventually something is going to happen where you are thrown off by your shadow. Let's talk a little about shadow, right? Shadow is just what you're not conscious of. Shadow is, people like to talk about shadow like it's all like the evil and bad parts of you. It's anything that you don't want to deal with. Sometimes, actually, remarkably enough, like your worthiness can be in your shadow. Sometimes your greatness can be in your shadow because that's the thing you're avoiding. So it's not always that your shadow is bad. It's just the thing that you're not looking at, the thing that is too painful or too difficult or complicated to deal with. So for a lot of people, that shadow involves, do I actually live by the politics that I stand for? For many people, it was, you know, especially, let's just say this year, it's like, do I actually live the principles of my feminism? You know, for people who are, you know, a lot of white feminists are getting called out now because, you know, and when I say white feminists, I don't mean just feminists who are white, I mean white feminists who believe that their idea of feminism is like pretty much only for themselves, because for them, the struggles of people of color are in shadow. You know, they're like, I'm sure they're not trying to be racist on purpose, but they're like, I don't care about that because it doesn't affect me, and I don't want to think about the ways that I might be complicit in all of that, so I'm just going to ignore that, and pink hat, pussy power, you know. A lot of those people are now also being exposed, for lack of a gentler word, you know, it's just coming up where they're preaching this stuff that they're not always abiding by, right? And sometimes stuff will come up from your shadow that is incredibly personal and will cause you to have a real meltdown and go out of your integrity and throw a tantrum when just the day before you had been preaching about how, you know, how, I don't know, relieved you were that everything's out, like, you know, it's like you're preaching all this like love and light and like I'm authentic and I'm the real deal, and then like we see everything you've been touting as the real deal fall the fuck apart on you. And you know, I'm not trying to have any like schadenfreude about that. Like, I really want everyone to be doing the work. It's just it strikes me as you guys, like, you can't pretend you're doing the work if you're not doing the work. And so that makes me think that maybe some of you guys maybe don't know what doing the work means. I don't mean you guys, my followers, but I'm addressing this trend that I see in the larger collective. So if there's any question in your mind, if you're seeing all of this happen, if you're seeing those people like myself who have put themselves out there and who have started to really work through their issues, you know, you're not going to hear a lot of buzzwords in our posts. It's not going to be, you know, it's, you know, you're just not going to hear that kind of language from me because I'm not even talking about that framework. I'm jumping right into the work. You know, I'm like not even taking the time to be like, hey, this is me being vulnerable, because like it's fucking obvious. I'm like, hey, here's my issues, here's what I'm working on, here's what I want you to hold me accountable on, here's what I'm feeling right now, right? It's about tapping into what you're going through in the moment. If any of you guys have ever done morning pages, that's a really great exercise to tap you into what you're feeling in the moment. This idea of just sitting with, like when I learned it, it was like 3 pages, and you just free write, you just free associate, and you let anything that wants to come out. That's when you're going to start tapping into what are you actually feeling. I always have known from, you know, from when I was in like, I think it was like my early 20s when I made the realization that, you know, I was like a chronic journaler growing up, and I realized in my early 20s, I was like, there's periods of my life where I don't write. And if I don't write, it means there's something that I'm afraid to confront in myself, because if I write it down, then it means that it's real. So a great way to start doing this is just to start writing more often, and write for yourself. You don't have to do it online, and don't do it to, you know, don't do it to look cool. Do it for yourself at first, and that's how you're going to know that it's real, is because nobody else is looking at it but you. So if nobody else is looking at it, I'm not saying don't put your stuff online, like do if you get there, but if you're just, if you're putting stuff online right away before you're doing the work, then you're going to start thinking about how are other people perceiving this and what looks like doing the work. No, just sit with where you're at, because the work is here. The work is always here. It always starts with what am I feeling right now, and what am I denying? What am I not letting through? And then, you know, beyond that, I can't tell you what your individual work is, because I'm not you and I don't live your life and I don't have the same problems as you do. I have my own problems. I can tell you what my work is. I can't tell you what yours is unless, you know, unless we're working together, and then I can point out, you know, I can point out what's what seems to be like not working for you. And of course also, like, obviously that's why I developed my course, the Repatterning Project, because that's going to take people through exercises and through questions and you know, group calls where we're going to be talking about the same things. We're going to have, you know, draw out our timelines, and we're going to address all the things that could use addressing. And I'm going to be taking people through those things as exercises, as bullet points. I'm going to be giving information and allowing whatever comes up for you out of that information to happen. So of course, like, as always, you guys, if you're interested, there's like no better time for this than right now. This is what the collective is going through. This is what everyone is going through. And it's just, it's time. People are getting caught with their pants down, man. People are getting caught not doing the work and pretending like they've been doing the work. And it's 2018, And people aren't standing for that anymore. We're not standing for that same hypocrisy. We're not allowing people to just live by the status quo and get by on mediocrity and bluster and lies and posturing. We're just not doing that anymore. That's why authenticity and vulnerability are trendy to begin with, because people are responding to people who are really putting themselves out there, doing the work. What does it look like to do the work? So if you're not doing the work, you're going to make these posts, and then something is going to happen to you in your life that you are not prepared to handle, whether it's your own behavior that you're not conscious of being exposed, or whether it's something that happens in your life that you have not been mindful about, that you have not been paying attention to, that you've been taking for granted, or trying to force square pegs into round holes in the wrong ways, and just going at this route without looking at why it's not working. And stuff is going to collapse. And I feel like, when we had like the highlight reel social media where it was like everything is great, everything is amazing, and then stuff falls apart, in a weird way that was almost more sympathetic, because we could relate to you more if we were like, we thought your life was perfect and then it falls apart, and maybe we kind of feel bad for you and you have to put it together. But if you've been acting like this is the real you the whole time, and then it's not, and then something happens where it shows that you are clearly not equipped to handle the things that come your way. And that doesn't mean that, even those who have done the work will never experience pain or whatever, but it's just like we know what our stuff is, and we see it, we see it before it starts to crop up, because we're being mindful of all the areas of our life and we're on top of the things that need improvement. If you're not doing that, if you're still posturing, if you're still faking, even if you're faking authenticity, then you're not going to be looking at what's really going on, and that stuff is going to like pop up out of the woodwork and surprise you. It's like, like that guy who wrote that article about how his wife left him because he didn't do the dishes. And it was really not about not doing the dishes. It was about the fact that she was trying to communicate with him about the things that she needed in a relationship, one of which was, can you please help out with the housework more? And one day she just had enough, and she left because this guy wasn't listening and wasn't paying attention. So it can come up like that too. It's not about necessarily if someone's coming out accusing you of sexual assault, although that's possible. And nowadays, if you are, there is a different level of sensitivity that is required in dating. So yeah, that's an area as well that you want to look at, that you're not going to be able to navigate in the same way that you navigated before all of this stuff happened. But also it could be just stuff in your life, like, for example, one day you come home and you didn't do the dishes, and it's like the 539th time, and your partner just leaves because you haven't been listening the whole time, because you haven't been paying attention, because you haven't been mindful, because you haven't been doing the work. Doing the work. Doing the work means looking at all the uncomfortable stuff that you don't want to look at. I've been going through, you guys, for me, I've been going through and looking at all the uncomfortable stuff that I didn't want to look at. And the first thing that came up, of course, is my relationship patterns, because I'm a very relationship-oriented person, and I feel that, that's what I teach. And I realized around like 2015, if you guys go back to my blogs in 2015, I'm like, I'm doing everything right, I'm knocking everything out of the park, and it's still not working. So clearly there's something that I'm not doing. And it turned out that I had to do my work on myself to make good choices about people who were showing up for me, that it wasn't enough just to be like hot and smart and pretty and, to technically have all of the relationship skills, that I learned through the relationship educator community, which for me was actually just enabling my perfectionism. I can make any relationship with anyone work because I have all the skills, meanwhile completely ignoring the fact that I was dating people who didn't have any of those skills, and couldn't relate to me in that way. So, I did that first. I looked at that uncomfortability. That brought up a whole bunch of trauma. I had to look at my repressed trauma. It led me to my core wound. I got rid of all that stuff. I got rid of all my coping mechanisms, and then it was like, well, now what? If I can't keep teaching the same stuff that I was teaching before if I've acknowledged that it didn't work for me to find me happiness, So I stopped teaching pickup. I was teaching pickup, I was teaching this methodology based on externals of like how to go out and approach people, how to dress in a way that commanded attention, in a way that showcased your personality and blah, blah, blah. And all that's very useful. But it got to a point where I was like, the work goes deeper than that. And if I really concentrate on just that work, I was attracting to myself a lot of clients who weren't doing their inner work, who were looking at the externals, because of course that's what I was doing for myself. So I was like, I need to, now that I know that this tactic, this set of tactics as a pickup artist is not the silver bullet that I thought it was, I'm gonna do my own inner work. And then of course it was about rebranding my business and bringing more of the work that I am doing there, going into that uncomfortability. I had uncomfortability for the longest time with even having a business, having a website. My old website was something I didn't even want to look at it. I didn't know how to code a website. I didn't know how to program it. It was super intimidating. I was just like, I don't want to deal with that. My site's old, it's shitty, whatever. Just like email me and if you want coaching and we'll work something out. Well, obviously not looking at that part of my life was not serving me. So I started looking at that. I hired an amazing web designer. I have a great new website that I'm super happy with now. And instead of avoiding it, I have someone that now I can go to who charges a very reasonable hourly rate, where I can say like, oh, hey, I need this done, rather than being like, oh, I don't like this thing about my website, so I'm not going to look at it. Now I know how to deal with it. And then the next thing I didn't want to look at was money. I was like, I always feel like my system of money has taken me this far. Like, it's never gotten me into super big debt or anything like that. I've survived. I've always been able to pay my bills, even when I have crises and whatever. I've always worked it out. It's working for me. And I was like, but you know what? I'm tired of it just working. I'm tired of always have to like supplement things or like keep on the hustle, keep on the grind or whatever. I want it to just be smooth. I want it to just be automated. I don't want to have to even think about money. I want to do what I love and just have it come in. And so that was me taking a look at my finances, and that I wasn't like all of those areas that I wasn't comfortable with, that I was avoiding. That's what doing the work is. It's about looking at the things that you're avoiding. Why are you avoiding them? I'm talking about inner work here, but I'm also talking about like, for me, inner work also meant how do I relate to business? How do I relate to money? How do I relate to anything? Any of that can be in shadow. So it started with with relationships. That brought up my core wound. I healed my trauma, and then I went on to look at like, how do I do work in the world that's meaningful to me now, that's in alignment with who I am and who I've healed in order to become. How do I make that work bring in the money that I need to be happy, to survive, and not just survive, but to thrive and be able to offer more and more and grow and actually be of more service to the world. I'm going to do a video in the coming either days or weeks, you guys, on how healing your trauma is an act of generosity, because it allows you to show up and be more in service, So anyway, don't let this happen to you. Don't go online and make these posts about how authentic you're being, and then something's going to happen and we're going to see it all fall apart, and we're going to see that you weren't equipped to handle things the way that you said that you were. We're going to see that you haven't actually been examining all of the things that, all of the stuff in your closet that is like rattling the door and saying, hey, come look at me, you've been ignoring me, and it's a situation. So yeah, now is the time. Now is really super the time. I'm not gonna lie, you guys, like yesterday was the time, even having come out of it on the other side myself, and even arguably having like, more growth to do because there's more building that I'm doing. But being where I'm at right now, I'm like, wow, man, I wish 5 years ago had been the time. I wish 10 years ago had been the time. I wish I had never gotten, my wiring messed up by my conditioning at all. I wish I could go back and just like reparent myself, just from the start. So now, do it now. Do it now. No excuses. Don't let that happen to you. Don't get caught being in an old paradigm mindset when we're going into a new paradigm. Don't pretend that you're woke and then have shit come back and bite you in the ass. Don't front like you're really being real with yourself when what you're actually doing is avoiding and couching your avoidance in this pretty language of authenticity. It's just super embarrassing. Just don't. Why would you set yourself up for that? So If you guys are interested, again, you know, the repatterning project starts July 1st. I can't emphasize how important this work is to be doing right now. Seeing what I've been seeing on social media lately, like there's people who should have been doing it a long time ago. I hope you guys will join me. It's really my hope, my mission to shepherd a large group of people, not super large, you know, but I want to shepherd a sizable group of people through this process so they have the tools to be able to get out of the other side of it, and they can also help people too, you know. I want to create more people who are in control of their beliefs and their programming and their patterning, so that they're in control of these things when they happen and they see this stuff coming, and it's not just, you know, they're not just walking through life fronting like everything is okay and having, you know, stuff come up for them. I did a lot of that myself when I was, especially, you know, when I was in New York. There was a lot of, well, I'm making things seem okay even though I don't feel okay. So that's what matters, because what matters is other people's perceptions of me, not my own happiness. That's never a good formula for success. Because now I look back, having come out the other side, and I'm like, oh wow, I wasn't fooling anybody, you know? So chances are you're not fooling anybody. Let's do the work. Let's get you in alignment with yourself. Let's get you to a place where this shit is not gonna happen to you, and you're not gonna have some unpleasant surprise sneak up on you and completely destroy your cool because you weren't paying attention to it. Let's actually do the work. Like actually do the work. And I hope you guys will join me. If you're interested, shoot me a message, send me a PM, or go to sacredsirens.com/the repatterning project, and I will see you all in the next video.